you've been working on a challenge.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's still coming along little by little.
So the challenge began right around the time that our significant birth dates ended, right?
Mhm.
We end up creating the CRUD for birthdays. And now I sent you off to go and review our videos that we created all along. And I said, hey, go and do the same thing, but for significant events, right?
Mhm.
And so now you're off doing the CRUD for the significant events, which meant that you had to go and create a table. You had to go and create store procedures for the CRUD. So for the select all, select by ID, update, insert, and delete, right? And where are you at with that?
So I finally completed the API for the tech history. So yeah, you could add
So the significant events, you mean?
Oh yeah, significant events.
All right, right. So you can actually demo something?
Yeah, let's check it out.
Oh, share your screen. Let's demo. Let's change the resolution on your screen.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. So let's walk through the code. Let's talk about what it is that you did.
All right. So this is the API. Let me open up the program.
So this is essentially just launching the application itself, right?
Yep. So it starts up, and then the controllers are right here.
So we got the history controller,
which has the let me make this a little bigger. So it has the update right here. We can update, we can create, we can delete, and then we can just get all the data that we have. So getting all the
by ID.
Yeah, by ID, and then this is getting all of them.
Very cool. And I see that you got your HTTP verbs, which are your two gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're passing a parameter on line 50, you're passing a parameter for the history ID. So you can go and get the right one. And then on line 30, you got a post, which is where you're inserting new data.
Yes.
And if you scroll up a little bit, on line 16 is your put, which is your update.
All right.
Very nice. Very cool. All right.
And what else we got? We have just basically all the stuff that goes along with all that.
So your repositories are the ones that are actually being used by your controllers, right? So if you scroll down to your repositories,
we have the repository, history repository, and then the iHistory repository kind of,
which is the interface.
The interface.
And so that interface is what is actually being used by the controller, right? So if you go back to the controller,
mm-hmm.
you see on line 13, you're using iHistory repository. And so that interface is, if we go back to the contract that we talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really matter how you get the data as long as we meet this contract. So the interface part is just a contract that needs to be met. And however you get the data, the controller doesn't care. It's like, here's the agreement that we have, and we're going to use this interface class
mm-hmm.
to be able to determine where the data comes from and how you get the data up to the controller. Think of it as the outlet on the wall of your house, right? Where the electricity comes from, you don't care. You just want to be able to plug into the interface, and it's going to deliver 110 volts out of there to power your fan, power your coffee maker, power your air fryer, power whatever needs to be powered. It's just that outlet on the wall is just an interface, because you can do the same thing with a power generator, right? Mm-hmm. You can go and have a power generator and plug your coffee maker into that power generator. You have a little engine that's just cranking out 110 volts, but it's the interface that matters. It doesn't matter what's happening behind the scenes to get that 110 volts. Mm-hmm. The interface classes pretty much do the same thing for your controllers. Your controllers say, hey, look, I don't know, and I really don't care how you get this data to me, but this is the agreement that we have. And that's essentially what those interfaces are. So when you go to your history data, can we go to your history? Oh, let's go to your repository first, actually. All right. Let's go down to your repositories. When you go to the history repository, history repository So this history repository on line 10 should implement the interface iHistory repository. Mm-hmm. So you need that colon space iHistory repository right where you're at on line 10.
Okay.
Put a colon. No, colon, not semicolon. And then iHistory repository. Oops. Yeah. So this is what determines that your history repository meets the contract. So currently, your history repository doesn't fulfill the contract. So let's hover over that and see what's going on. Let's show potential fixes. And it says, let's implement the interface. Let's see what's missing. Go ahead and click on that. So let's go ahead and let's scroll down to see what it added. It must have added something at the bottom of that history. Oh. Right there, line 49.
Oh, here we go.
So that was one that was missing. So get record by ID is one that hasn't been implemented. So if you do a control MO, let's make sure that we don't have anything similar. Oh, look at this. You see your get all on line 37?
Yeah.
I think that's supposed to be. So just copy get record by ID. Just copy that method.
Okay.
Just the get record by ID. You don't have to copy the whole thing. Just the name, copy that and paste that. And then get rid of line 49, that whole method. Yeah, just go ahead and. All right. I think that still works.
Cool.
It's not complaining.
Yeah.
And also, just for convention, let's put a space after the Y and between the Y and the colon on line 10. Yeah, just out of convention. So we'll do that. So yeah, so you can see where that iHistory being the contract, that's what your controller is looking at. It doesn't look at iHistory repository. It's looking at iHistory. And so it says, hey, look, I don't care if it's history data, if it's history repository, if it's some other thing, however you get me this data, all I need you to do is meet this contract. And the way that you specify that you're meeting the contract is by putting that colon and then the iHistory repository. And that ensures that your methods are being met, that your contract is being met. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. All right. And so I also see that iHistory is your contract here between the repository and your data, your significant data.
Mhm.
So let's go look at your history class under significant data. All right, look at, you got the, so you have the contract implemented,
Mhm.
which means that everything is being met and it's not complaining. Very cool.
Yep. Yep.
Does it run?
Sure does.
Let's see it. I'm excited.
All right. Here it is.
Let's do a post
Okay.
and try it out. So let's put today, and the title is going to be
Hold on.
the title. Yeah, that's fine. Today's fine. And the title is going to be creation of significant events. And then the description is going to be, today marks the day that we demo the API for significant events. Let's execute that and see what happens. What? Oh, we got 500. Let's see here. Let's see what the error says. The error says that unable to resolve the service for significant repository, I repository, while attempting to activate significant API controllers, history controller. So in your history controller, you have iHistory repository, which is correct, absolutely correct.
Mhm.
But you haven't told it how iHistory repository maps to the history repository.
Mm.
So if we go back, go ahead and stop this for a moment. So if we go back and let's open up the startup, the startup file. Yeah, startup.cs.
Oh.
And if we scroll down, you'll notice that not too far and go up a little bit. So on line 26, we added a scope and we said, we have a dependency injection service. And this dependency injection service needs to be able to meet the contract, iBirthday repository. And in order to meet that contract, you're going to use the concrete class, or the actual class that has everything that you need to meet that contract is in the birthday repository. So we need the same thing. So after line 27, we're going to put the same thing, services.add scope. And you're going to put a less than sign. And you're going to put iHistory repository, comma, and you're going to say that iHistory repository needs to instantiate history repository. And then you can go ahead and open close parenthesis and then semicolon at the end. But you're going to run into the same problem when you instantiate history, because it needs the data. So the same way that you're doing the birth dates, we also need to do the same thing for the history. So we'll do another services.add scope. And we need to say iHistory, comma, history. And then you'll need to do the same thing as you did on line 27.
Oops. Lowercase.
And then in between the closing parentheses, you'll do the fat arrow. And that just simply returns new birth date or new history, sorry. And you have to pass in the connection string. And then close the parenthesis one more time. Yep. And then close it off with a semicolon. All right. So this basically takes care of our dependency injection. You brought us 99% of the way home on the API, Jonathan. That's like, hey, that's awesome. I mean, hey, you know, for being your first Lone Ranger adventure on creating an API, you brought us 99% of the way. So be proud of that. Okay. It was a small detail. Let's go ahead and run this again. Let's see if it works this time.
Some of the connections are what confused me when I'm doing it on my own.
Yeah, totally.
Just figuring out what connects to what and then hoping that it works.
Totally. I get it. I've been there. In fact, I'm there a lot of the times.
So what was it? Launch? What do you call it?
The day we launched significant events. And then we could just say, today marks the day that we demoed the API. For significant events. All right, let's see if this works. Oh, what happened here? Okay, let's go ahead and hit the X on that little box right there. And it's saying, let's see here. Parameter, command, parameter, ID. So you have int equals. So let's hover over command, first of all. So command is there. Let's hover over parameters. Parameters are there. And let's expand parameters. So hover over parameters and expand that. And we have 4 of them. So let's go and expand the result view. And so ID is there. So let's go ahead and expand ID. So the ID is there. Okay, so it's uppercase I, lowercase d. What are you? Let's go back to the code for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Uppercase I, lowercase d. Interesting. And this is an output. And so the value is what's null. So if you hover over value, that should give us the null. So that's a null value. So that means, that tells me that your stored procedure is not assigning the ID value. So let's go ahead and stop this for a second and let's go investigate that. You could just hit the little stop button.
I think it's already stopped now. Oh,
yeah. So let's go look at your stored procedure for tech history insert. So the tech history table is there, but let's go to programmability, store procedures, and let's look at tech history insert. Right click on that and modify. Oh, look at that. ID integer, and it's an out parameter. And you're assigning the scope identity to the ID. So that's correct. Let's go back to the code for a moment. So this looks correct. There's nothing wrong with that. At least I don't see anything. So you go through, your command type is a procedure, store procedure. Your SQL parameter P is ID. Direction is output. Command parameter, you're adding P. And then you're doing add with value. You open. Oh, okay. I see what happened. So let's walk through this, okay?
Okay.
So okay. Line 50 initiates the result as an integer and you set it to 0. Perfect. Inside you're instantiating a new connection and you're passing in the connection string. Perfect. And then 54 instantiates a command and you specify that it uses a connection, which is the CONN. And then you're specifying that the name of the command that you want to execute is a tech history underscore insert. Line 55, you tell it, by the way, this is a stored procedure. And then lines 56, 57, and 58 is where you establish your ID parameter. And you say, this is going to be an output. In other words, you're going to send me back once you set the value. And then you specify 3 more values, your date, your title, and your description. You open your connection. And then you're expecting a value. We're missing one more thing. After you open it, we have to execute that procedure. Does that make sense?
Got it.
So here we're going to say command dot cmd dot execute non-query, open close parenthesis and semicolon. So that's going to execute your store procedure. And at that point, that actually runs a store procedure that we just looked at, and it will assign that ID value.
Got it.
Is there any other ones that you want to look at to see, make sure that we didn't forget the execute on those? See how you got to execute reader on line 81?
Mm-hmm.
So you're executing and you're getting the values. Same thing on line 101. That's the mapper. That's good. Let's go to the one on 29. Here's okay, execute non-query. Good. That's good. And execute non-query. So it was just that one line.
Wow.
This is a lot of code. This is a lot of code. I mean, if you're following along and trying to get this thing to work, it's a lot of code to follow. And so missing one line of code is pretty common. I mean, it happens to me. Let's try it again.
All right, third time's the charm.
I would say so. Try it out. I think it's LAU.
I'll pay you.
We demoed.
Demoed.
Oh, oh, ho, ho.
Oh yeah.
Item number 6. There it is. Okay, so let's go and look at the get for API. Yep, the history. Let's try that out. And we should see it in there now. Execute. All right, we have a little problem. Let's see what happens. So, not supported serialization and deserialization of system type instances not supported should be avoided since they could lead to security issues. What is it complaining about here?
System type.
Well, let's go and look at your, let's go ahead and close this and look at your mapper. So here we have the history response, the ID, the date, the title, the description. Get date time, get string, get int. Okay. Let's put a breakpoint on line 115. And let's see what we have. Go ahead and run that again. Oh, interesting. It didn't stop there. Let's go back to the code. You can keep it running. Keep it running. Let's just go to the code. Let's go to the controller. Let's go to the history controller. It's the second. Oh yeah, you could go that way too. Yep. And let's go to that select all, which I think is going to be towards the bottom. Let's put a breakpoint on line 69. All right. And let's go back. No, go ahead and keep it running. Let's go back to the browser and hit execute again. Okay. And let's step into this. And so it'll be step in. It'll be 1, 2. Yeah, right there. Step into. And step over. And step into. And go ahead and step over. What we want to see is where does it actually crash? So we'll step over. And let's step over again. And step over. Step over again. Once more. Go ahead, step over this, step over this. Oh. Let's step over one more time. And let's look at hover over E. Let's look at what that says. Could not find stored procedure, history select all. So the error that we got in the Swagger API is basically hiding the real error because it's a security risk to send the exception back to the UI, back to the browser. And that's essentially what it's saying. It's like, hey, you shouldn't serialize this object because it's a security risk. And it's by all intensive purposes, they're absolutely right. We should not send this information because now they know what store procedure. It's not going to give them a whole lot, but now they know. So it can't find that history select all. Do we know what we named it? Let's go check in SQL Server.
Okay.
And see if history select all exist.
History.
Oh, it's tech history.
Oh, okay.
So they're all tech history. Okay, so let's go and shut down the browser so we can go and modify our code. And let's go into Visual Studio. And let's go into the repository, not the repository, but the history.cs under data. Yeah, so you see on line 97, it's actually tech history, not history.
Got it.
Where else do we have just history? Maybe we need to fix those as well. Yeah, because I think they're all tech history. That one's right.
That one's
right.
That one's good.
That one's right. All right. Little things, you know, that you're gonna discover as you're testing, and that's why you test, right? We give it a run. But let's go ahead and remove these breakpoints, and I think that should work from this point.
The other one was right here. All right.
Let's try it again. Little debugging session before we get into the big section. There you go. So we got some data back.
Cool.
And we got the day that we launched significant events, ID number 6. So let's go test the other ones. Let's go see what other ones that we need. Let's go do the get and try it out. Number 6. Did it work? Look at that. Yeah. Nice. What else we got? Let's go update it before we delete it. And so try it out. History ID 6. And let's just go ahead and put the title. The day we debugged significant events. Yeah, and then description. I'll let you put something in there.
Stumbled through some of the code. Cool. Oh.
Well, I think we're missing. Go back up to the top. I think you need on the ID, you need 6.
Oh.
Try that. Okay. So we got an error. Let's go and put a breakpoint on that controller on that method. Yeah, line 20 would be good. And then go back and execute it. And then do the same thing that we did earlier. Step into it and then step into this. So, and then, ooh, what happened there? Go ahead and step over this and let's see what the error is. Go ahead and hover over the E.
Description.
Oh, look how you spelled it.
Oh man, I missed an I.
Actually you transpose the P and the I.
P and the I. Damn it.
So yeah. You should know how to fix this, right? Let's go ahead and stop this and let's fix it.
Description is going to be.
So this is your controller. You need to go into the history.
Oh.
Yeah.
right here.
No, that's right. That one's right. This is the update. Whoa, wait a second. Oh, so you spelled it right here. You misspelled it in the store procedure.
Procedure, yeah.
Yeah. So we either fix it here, we fix it in a store procedure, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I would spell it correctly
Yeah.
where you need to.
All right.
So let's go ahead and close this window.
Close this.
Yeah, close this window. Not this Visual Studio, just this tab.
Oh, okay.
No. Bring SQL Server back. This store procedure that you have open, go ahead and close that up.
Okay.
And then I think you saved your store procedures into files, right?
Yes.
So let's go modify that file. That way you don't have to worry about it being incorrect.
Okay.
I think this is going to be, if you go back to SQL Server and go click on the open folder or file open, file. This is where it's located. So it's under your sandbox, C sandbox. You see where it says up on top?
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But you're going to want to open it inside a SQL Server, right?
Oh, okay. Just to do it right here.
Yeah. And then you're also going to have to fix it on line 6. And you can just do a Control E. That should fix it. You'll execute it and it overrides the store procedure. And let's go try it again. This is what debugging is all about, Jonathan.
All right. Check it
The day we stumble through code.
Oops, I forgot to take off the. There you go.
And just press continue.
Yeah.
There you go. So that worked. Let's go back and do the get.
Get. There it is.
That didn't update.
Oh no.
Let's go try that update again. Let's see what's going on.
Oh, I didn't put 6.
Oh,
It was at 0. And right. We don't have 0.
now we don't have 0. All right, let's look at that. Let's go do the get again. There we go. So yeah, you just got to have that second parameter there, that parameter. Let's delete it.
Okay.
Get the whole round trip going. That did it. And let's go look at the list again, make sure it's gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
There we go.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we were able to work through that one. That's cool. You took us almost there, Jonathan. The amount of work that you did, you pretty much did everything. You just came in and closed the deal, basically. So I guess you're going to continue working on the UI for this, right?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Let's go ahead and close this up and let's get back into Goon Talks.